أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. So we continue with our discussion which we started in the previous discussions in the previous lectures, where we started the topic of Wilayah Takwiniyah and istighatha. So we had promised that we will be getting into definitions inshallah today, but before we get into the definitions, I would like to mention two more points which I've forgotten from the previous discussions, and they're so related to our discussions, and that's why I thought it was necessary for us to discuss these 2 points. My apologies again. I don't want to, people should not feel that I'm running away from those definitions and that discussion of definition. Rather, as we go further, I'm realizing that there's some points which are missed out, and I need to mention them so that to be able to have a very structured and step-by-step discussion, number one, and number two, to be able to help us in the further conclusions. So when we take the conclusions, you should be able to understand how did we take conclusions, okay? On what basis did we take the conclusions, okay? Now, the discussion number one, which is a methodological discussion, which I believe is a very important discussion for those of you who are into research. At least you will appreciate this discussion. This is a discussion which I raised even in my Tawassul lecture, but I want to now a bit open it up more and then relate it to this discussion, because it's one of the very important methodological discussions without which, and I see this a lot, we are falling into a lot of fallacies, okay? A lot of mistakes are being done because of not being able to distinguish between, to not be able to distinguish this methodological understanding, okay? So, the first point we want to discuss is this. See, when we come to, so we all know that there are physical, material realities and metaphysical realities, okay? This is something we accept. The atheists don't accept that. The others, the akhbaris and those who went to the other side of saying that no, only Allah is metaphysical, we don't want to get into those discussions, okay? We do accept, all of us, that at least there's some material realities and physical realities, and some are metaphysical realities. Now, when it comes to metaphysical reality, it's divided into two. Please, I want us to go together with this discussion so that we can reach to some kind of conclusion, yeah? Metaphysical realities are divided into two. Some are generalities and some are particulars. So what the ulama of mantiq would say, these are kulliyat and these are juz'iyat. Okay? When I give example, then you will understand. When we say it's generalities, these are general principles, and the reason I'm doing this division is here, that these generalities can be understood by the intellect and the aql, okay? The aql and the intellect can understand these generalities. These are general principles which you be able to, the aql and the intellect can grasp them. When it comes to these particulars and these juz'iyat and the details, the aql has no way ever to understand these realities. We are talking about metaphysical realities, yeah? Those realities which cannot be sensed by the senses, okay? So when you can't sense it by the senses, either you use your aql to understand, and these are the generalities, or you will now need wahi and revelation to come and tell you what these details are. I hope we are going together, yeah? So, generalities and particulars, kulliyat and juz'iyat. The kulliyat can be understood by the aql, but the juz'iyat cannot be understood by the aql at all. There is no way to understand it, okay? Now, let me give you an example so you come and understand a bit better. For example, when we discussed ma'ad, okay, day of judgment, the hereafter, The concept, the general concept of the day of judgment is something the aql and the intellect can comprehend. Okay, the intellect will sit down and say that, see, this is a material world, which is a limited world, where if somebody does good in this limited world, he cannot be rewarded or punished in the same way he has done the action. So for example, if a person, God forbid, kills 500 people, the max it can be done is that he can be killed once. It cannot be killed 500 times, yeah? You can't return that person 500 times and kill him, okay? Once that person will be killed, and that's all. Now, Aql tells you this is not justice, okay? There has to be another world out there where accountability has to be done based on justice. This person who has committed this heinous crime has to go through what he has done. Do you get me? So the intellect understands this general concept of a hereafter where there will be hisab and kitab and accountability. That's all. I hope you're getting me, okay? That's all what the aql and the intellect can understand, because it's a very general concept. Now, what will transpire there, okay? What will be in Jannah, what will be in Jahannam, or what will we do there? Will we stay forever? Will we not stay forever? Okay, what will we be doing inside? What will we get inside? What type of food will we get? What type of, that's why there's a discussion within some of the scholars as to whether is Allah just giving a parable of what is going to be in Jannah, or really is this the food we are going to get in Jannah? So when Allah talks about milk and asal and honey and water streaming around, are these parables to be able to just explain us, or these are the realities which will be out there? Okay, so the aql cannot, the intellect cannot at all understand the details of what's going to happen out there. Why? Because it's a world which the aql and the intellect has no access to. Are you getting me? Okay? The intellect has no access to that world. The only one who can inform us is the one who has access to that world. And thus Allah, through His Prophet and through His messengers, is going to now tell us what is happening out there. I hope I could explain, yeah? Kulliyat and juz'iyat, the generalities and the particulars and the details. So the general concept of ma'ad and the hereafter is a general concept which the aql can comprehend. The particulars cannot be comprehended. It's because the aql cannot comprehend what's going to happen in the hereafter, and we have not gone out there. So the only way we can understand is through revelation and textual evidence. This is where Quran and Hadith comes into picture. Okay? Now, why did I bring this example? When we relate it to Wilayah Takwiniyah now, keep this in mind, okay? This is one of the fallacies we see it happening and again, okay? When it comes to Wilayah Takwiniyah is one of the affairs and one of the issues given to the Prophet or the Imam, okay? It's one of the issues. It's not the general concept of prophethood. So the aql, the intellect can comprehend prophethood. So the aql and the intellect sits down and says, yes, we need a prophet to be able to guide us to perfection. Why? Because we humans are not complete, we are limited. We need a guide who is connected to the unlimited source, so that he can guide us to that unlimited hereafter, okay, the infinite hereafter. That we need a guide. The aql can understand that in form of a messenger or the imam. We need that. But what kind of that guide should be? Would he be a human? Would he be an angel? Allah could decide both. What kind of qualities should he give it to him? To the level, okay? Some scholars would say that isma and ilmul ghaib and all can be discussed intellectually and rationally. We would say, okay, you want to say that isma and ilmul ghaib and all can be discussed. It's only the general concept of infallibility which can be discussed. How much infallibility this prophet should have, we can't, the aql cannot understand. And that is why when you refer to the likes of Sheikh Mufid, the beauty I like about the early theologians was that they very much clarified that this is where the aql can understand this, and this is something the aql cannot understand. So when it comes to isma, for example, they will tell you that yes, aql can, for example, understand that the messenger has to be infallible. But how much infallible? Okay? Now, is it only in his wahi? Is it in his personal life? Is it in his family life? It is also in the socio-political life. That's something which textual evidence will come and tell us. It's not the aql's job, it's the textual evidence's job. Okay? So, one of the things a prophet or the imam is given, at the moment I'm generalizing, we're not getting into the details. The prophet or the imam is given is Wilayah Takwiniyah. It's an authority delegated to the prophet or the imam. Do you get me? Okay? And thus, aql, the intellect, cannot discuss this topic. We need textual evidences to discuss this whole topic of Wilayah Takwiniyah. I'm sorry I'm taking time so that we can clearly understand. When I will be taking conclusions later, then we should not be able to come back and say, oh, but this is there also. There is intellectual evidence proving that. No, we say no. Intellectual evidence and rational evidence doesn't have a role to play in this topic at all. And unfortunately, we see this happening on a daily basis. And unfortunately, it happens even in the seminaries, okay? I've discussed with few people, whenever you discuss this. Now, lay people, you say, okay, lay people don't understand. But even when you discuss with seminary students, okay, and teachers also, they quickly run to intellectual and rational evidence. Now, you see why it's happening. You remember the first discussion where we discussed the different stages and the different periods of Shia theology and Kalam. You remember we mentioned that the last contemporary period we are living in at the moment, it's a time where philosophy is merged with theology. When you merge these two, then the discussions are not separated now. It's basically just become a kichro, okay? It's a mixture of everything, whatever you want to discuss, you throw it on aql, you throw it on naql, you do like that. Okay? Now that's not right. The way the earlier theologians did was right. Kept philosophical discussions in its place, kept theological discussions in its place. Do you get me? Okay? Now, why is this happening today? The reason it's happening is because there's a mixture of all this happening today. Okay? So, when you go discuss, you will notice that they are giving you intellectual and rational evidences. So you must have heard this a lot of times. Imam gave his life for the sake of Allah. Because Imam gave everything in the way of Allah, thus Allah has to even give him everything then. So Wilayah Takwiniyah, which the Imam has been given, it's because he gave his whole life in the way of Allah, thus Allah also gave him everything. Where does this principle come from? Where are you getting this principle from? That if a person becomes the utmost servant of Allah, then Allah also has to give him in return. Who said so? Okay? Then the angels would receive even more. Are you getting me? Okay? But Allah has not given them. It's whoever Allah wishes to give, whatever will Allah will give. So we need evidence as to what did Allah give to who. And that is why you notice the earlier prophets make a very good example of this. Notice the prophets got only few miracles which were applicable to their time and place. They didn't get everything together. So nobody, no Shia, no Sunni will get saying that Prophet Musa was given miracles, every miracle, Wilayah Takwiniyah. No. He was given miracle of his time and place. Prophet Isa was also given the miracle of his time and place. And that was, he could bring people back to life, he could cure the sick. Nothing. He was not given, Prophet Isa was not given the miracles of Musa, and Musa was not given the miracles of Isa. Okay? Why? Because it's Allah's decision to give what He wants to which one of His prophets and His chosen ones. I don't know if I'm making sense or no. Okay? I'm taking a bit time to be able to explain because of the conclusions we will take. But when you come discuss with people, you will notice that people just make this fallacy that because Imam gave everything, so Allah has to give everything. This principle doesn't exist in Islam. Okay? It's a non-existent principle that Allah has to give. Or for example, when you do, strangely, when it comes to fiqh, our scholars are very strict on qiyas. Okay, though we had mentioned that qiyas has almost 5 to 6 meanings. Inshallah, some other time we can discuss that. When it comes to fiqh, they're very strict in qiyas. Okay, no analogies, no comparisons between two fatawas and two rulings and all whatnot. But when it comes to aqaid and theology, suddenly we forget. Now, this is a principle you can't, when you are doing textual evidences, when you are doing textual analysis, Quran and Hadith in any way cannot be studied with qiyas. You can't say because Isa was given this, so Musa also was given this. No. Okay? You say no, because Ibrahim alayhi salam was given this, so even, Yahya was alayhi salam was given this. No. It's not possible. Okay, so this is the example you will keep on hearing that, because Isa alayhi salam was given this, so the Imam was also given this. Why? Because Imam was, at the moment, that's the understanding, the current Shia understanding, that the Imam is greater than the Prophet, okay? So he is greater than the Prophet, thus he has to have even more than what Isa was given. No, that's not the policy of Allah, okay? The authority has to be given, thus evidence has to be proven that this was what was given to this Imam. Are you getting me where I'm trying to go to? Okay, so it's a very methodological issue when it comes to Wilayah Takwiniyah. The only thing which we can prove Wilayah Takwiniyah through is through textual evidence, Quran and Hadith, not intellectual and rational evidence. Okay, I'm sorry I'm taking time, but I need to explain these issues. That was point number 1. I hope I explained it nicely. Point number 2, which I forgot also, was a very important point to mention. When we have this discussion, okay, you will then be able to appreciate the discussion of Wilayah Takwiniyah even more. Okay, now, if you remember in the first lecture, if I'm not mistaken, where we divided Wilayah into 4. So one of the divisions, okay, of Wilayah was divided into 4. There's another division which the scholars do and divide Wilayah into 2. Okay? Now, this is a discussion, scholars would have it under tafweed. Okay, so the riwayah says fawwada ilayhi. Okay, when I come and read the riwayah, the word is used fawwada, tafweed. And that is why, again, you notice again, the muhaddithin, the traditionists, okay, they make it very clear. You will notice they have not used the word Wilayah. So you, for example, you refer, and scholars will mention this, that Wilayah Takwiniyah is a very recent word. It's a very recent terminology. The reason is because it's being influenced by the philosophers and the mystics. This word Wilayah Takwiniyah is not a word used in the riwayats. Okay? The word used in the riwayats is tafweed. And that's why, for example, if you go to Allama Majlisi, you will notice he doesn't use the word Wilayah Takwiniyah. He says tafweedun ala ma'anin. Okay? We'll come and quote it later, inshallah. The tafweed has different meanings. So he discusses Wilayah Takwiniyah under the topic of tafweed. Why? Because the word used in the riwayats is tafweed and not Wilayah Takwiniyah. Okay? So now, you want to say tafweed, you want to say wilaya, whatever you want to say, it's divided into two. Wilayah Takwiniyah, that's the discussion we are actually having, yeah? And it's Wilayah Tashri'iyah. I thought I explained this so that it's important you get the flow of the discussion. And if you understand this concept, the definition here, then this definition later as we go further, it becomes a bit more easier, okay? So it's Wilayah Takwiniyah or Wilayah Tashri'iyyah, okay? Or you want to call it Tafweed. Takwiniyah and Tafweed Tashri'iyyah, okay? So creative or universal authority and legislative authority. So what do we mean by legislative authority? The riwayats are plenty. There are numerous riwayats in our books and some in the Sunni books. I'll just refer to them. What is happening in legislative authority is this, okay? There's a concept which this Wilayah Tashri'iyyah, by the way, when we come and discuss it further, we will mention that Shia scholars have mentioned it very clearly. They open a separate chapter in their books for this topic, especially in the fuqaha's books, okay, because it's related to fiqh and laws, okay? Sunni scholars will discuss it implicitly. I will come and discuss also why, okay? So what is this whole issue about Wilayah Tashri'iyyah and legislative authority? This is legislative authority. Allah, the riwayah says, Inna Allah Azza wa Jal. This riwayah is in Al-Kafi, volume 1, page 267. The numerous such riwayats in our books, okay? Inna Allah Azza wa Jal addaba nabiyyahu sallallahu alayhi wa alihi fa ahsana adabah. Okay? So, the hadith says that Allah took responsibility of training the Prophet personally. Okay? He started training the Prophet himself. He took care of him himself. Now, it doesn't mean that the Prophet is a robot and he's just working like a machine, God forbid. No. He found this student to be very much competent, and that's why he took the trouble to train him. Okay? And thus Allah took the training of the Prophet into himself personally. When he had already trained him, the Prophet reached to a level of innaka la'ala khuluqin azim. Now the Prophet had reached the pinnacle of the adab and behavior and ethics and akhlaq. This is where now the Imam says, ثُمَّ فَوَّضَ إِلَيْهِ أَمْرَ الدِّينُ وَالْأُمَّةِ. Notice the word used here, okay? The riwayah uses the word fawwada, tafweed. Doesn't use the word walla, okay? Fawwada ilayhi amr ad-din. The matters, the legislative matters of deen was now delegated to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Are you getting the word? Tafweed means to delegate. It doesn't mean what would, when we go into Wilayah Takwiniyah, then it'll make it more clearer that some people will come and say, no, because they don't define Wilayah Takwiniyah, they don't understand that Wilayah Takwiniyah means tafweed. You need to delegate authority. Delegation means what? You don't take it up yourself now, you delegate it to somebody else. He does it on your behalf. Are you getting me? Okay? So now, the Holy Prophet was delegated the legislative authority. Now, and that is why the verse says, مَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Okay? Whatever the Holy Prophet brings you, take it. And whatever he tells you and he prohibits from that, you stay away from it. Now, let me give an example. This example is there also in the Sunni books also. Okay? I'm giving one example. There are other numerous examples also on this topic, but I'm giving one example on this topic. Okay? The riwayah says, إن الله عز وجل فرض الصلاة ركعتين ركعتين عشر ركعات. Okay? Now, I don't want to please get into, as I want to make it clear, I'm not getting into the details of the discussion of Wilayah Tashri'iyyah, okay, the legislative authority. I'm just mentioning it briefly so that you understand there's another type of Wilayah which you need to be aware of also, because it will help you understand the other Wilayah Takwiniyah. And I'm not getting into the details also of the fiqh discussions also, okay? So what I'm just mentioning is what is there in the riwayats at the moment for further discussion sometime in the future. Allah initially obligated salah to be 10 rak'ats, okay? Allah legislated the initial salah was 10 rak'ah a day. So every salah was 2 rak'ah. Subuh 2 rak'ah, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha, all were 2 rak'ah, okay? And thus the daily prayers was 10 units and 10 rak'ah. The riwayah goes on further by saying فَأَضَافَ, notice, فَأَضَافَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ إِلَى الرَّكْعَتَيْنِ الرَّكْعَتَيْنِ وَإِلَى الْمَغْرِبِ رَكْعَةً. Okay, so the Holy Prophet now added, the Holy Prophet legislated 7 more units into the prayers. It's because Allah loved him so much, okay? He gave him the permission to legislate, and thus when Allah legislated 10 rak'ah, the Holy Prophet said, no, I want to add 7 more rak'ah to the 10, and thus it became 17. So Subh remained 2, Dhuhr, Asr and Isha, which were originally 2 rak'ah prayers, became 4 rak'ah prayers. And Maghrib, which was originally 2 rak'ah, became 3 rak'ah. This is the meaning of Wilayah Tashri'iyyah, legislative authority. Okay? The meaning is this, that Allah gave the Prophet and delegated the authority to the Prophet to legislate. And then Allah, because of loving the Prophet, because of training the Prophet to a level where he loved him so much, thus he accepted that and included it in part of religion. And thus today we are praying as 17, not 10 anymore. Do you get me? Okay? This is what is called legislative authority. Now, before I come to the Imams, a similar issue is also narrated in within the Sunni books. Okay? Now, as I mentioned in the beginning also, I'm not getting into Sunni discussions a lot. Hopefully, inshallah, we might discuss, if Allah gives tawfiq, we might discuss the discussions of the Sunnis towards the end. Once we've finished these discussions, we might, inshallah, bring up their discussions, okay, on the topic of Wilayah Takwiniyah and istighatha, if Allah gives tawfiq. One thing I would like to mention here is this. One of the things you will find in Sunni scholarship, especially the contemporary scholarship, is that a lot of things which are written in their books, again, this is not with the Sunnis also, with the Shias also, but Sunnis now are blaming Shias also for that when it's there in their books also. So a lot of times what is written in their books and in their texts, they're ignoring that, and what is the current status quo is what they're taking as Sunni, current Sunnism, and Sunnism which has always been there, and thus they are now using it to now criticize and also speak strangely against the Shias. Okay? So for example, even the whole issue of istighatha and Wilayah Takwiniyah, especially istighatha, wallahi, you come and realize Sunnis were discussing istighatha more than Shias in that classical period. Okay, inshallah, if we go further, we'll mention that. And to that reason, I don't know if you guys are following up at the moment, there is a whole discussion online between polemicists, Sunni polemicists, okay? So between Daniel Haqiqat Jew and Muhammad Hijab on one side, and then there's Adnan Rashid and the other Salafis and the Wahhabis on the other side, okay? The discussion is on the same thing. All started with the war in Iran and Gaza and all that, and the way, because the Salafis took sides, unfortunately took sides with the Israelis even in some places. Okay, again after being funded by some of the some of the nations. Yeah, so they ended up taking sides, and these people now started criticizing them. It went into starting to criticize the Wahhabis and Wahhabism to the level that Daniel Haqiqat Jew has produced around a 3+ hours documentary on Wahhabism. Okay, but the recent discussion now is going on is on Wilayah Takwiniyah and this istighatha issue, where the Wahhabis are claiming it's shirk. Okay, when they're claiming it's shirk, these people are turning back and saying, Baba, which shirk are you talking about? Look at how many Sunni scholars used to believe in istighatha. And that is why Dr. Yasir Qadhi, this is my personal understanding from his reading and from his listening, is this, that he initially, when he came out from the Medina University, he had the same opinion, the Salafi opinion, that istighatha is shirk. Okay, it's a very strange opinion. It's shirk. Okay, later Dr. Yasir Qadhi changed his opinion. Now it's been recent, I guess it's 2-3 years apparently, he has changed his opinion. Now he believes istighatha is haram. And one of the reasons he mentions, and he keeps on mentioning now and again, is because there are plenty of Sunni scholars and giants who used to believe in istighatha. So now if you start declaring it as shirk, you will have to consider these scholars and giants of Sunnism to be mushriks now. And that is why the Wahhabis don't have issues with, okay? Wahhabis will quickly blame everybody to be mushriks and kafirs. For them, takfir is easy. But Dr. Yasir Qadhi is like, how do you do takfir of the Salaf? And so many Sunni scholars, okay? This is a reality Sunnism is going through at the moment because of the mixture of Wahhabism and Salafism within it. So one of those topics is this Wilayah Tashri'iyyah also. Now Sunnis don't open a separate chapter and a separate topic in their book calling it Wilayah Takwiniyah. So what the current and contemporary scholars of the Sunnism in the Sunni world do is they start criticizing Shia for believing in such a belief. Okay, so for example, if you refer to Dhahabi, not the famous Dhahabi, okay, of the 7th, 8th century scholar, rather the Dhahabi, the author of At-Tafsir wal-Mufassirun, is a contemporary scholar who has written this book. There's a lot of criticism towards Shiism in that book. Okay, one of the criticism he has towards Shias is on this issue. The Shias believe in legislative authority for the Imams. Okay, now strangely, not saying that even the Sunnis have indications in their books of they also believe in the same issue. Okay, now refer to Umdatul Qari, and then I'll come to Fathul Bari. So let me give you the context. Umdatul Qari fi Sharh Sahih al-Bukhari. Okay, so these are both books of commentary on Sahih Bukhari. One is written by Badruddin al-Aini, Umdatul Qari, and then Fathul Bari is the famous Ibn Hajar Asqalani, who is called Imam al-Hadith in the Sunni world. Okay, that's his commentary on Sahih al-Bukhari. Okay, now they have a similar contradiction when it comes to these riwayats of legislation of salah. Okay, so we mentioned in the Shia hadith that the initial legislation was how much? 10 rak'ah, and then the Holy Prophet added 7 more rak'ah to it. Similarly, they even have a similar riwayah. Okay, notice he says, so this riwayah is in Bukhari and it's there in Muslim also. Okay, I'm reading it from Umdatul Qari, volume 4, page 52. Furidat as-salah rak'atayn. Do you get this? Okay, same riwayah which the Shias have, that the prayers was initially 2 rak'ah. ثم هاجر النبي صلى الله عليه وآله, when the Holy Prophet migrated to Medina, ففرضت 4. Okay, after that the 2 rak'ah became 4 rak'ah and 4 units. Do you get me? Now, under that, Badruddin Aini has a very interesting hadith which he brings from Bayhaqi. Okay? Now, this hadith, please listen to it carefully, and then we will go to Fathul Bari, and then you will see how they play with these riwayats to be able to justify their understanding and their belief. Okay? The riwayah has been quoted. So he says, وفي سنن البيحقي من حديث داود ابن أبي هند. Okay? This riwayah is there in Sunan al-Bayhaqi, the famous Bayhaqi. It's from An Aisha قالت. Okay? So this riwayah is from the mother of believers, Aisha. She said, إن أول ما فرضت الصلاة ركعتين. Now, before I get into this, I would like to explain one more thing before I get into, or let me finish this and then I'll come and explain that, okay, as I go further. So, the salah was initially legislated was what? 2 rak'ah, okay? Now, فَلَمَّا قَدَمَ النَّبِي صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِ الْمَدِينَةِ وَاطْمَأَنَّ. Okay? When the Holy Prophet now migrated to Medina, and then he settled, وَاطْمَأَنَّ. Okay? He settled down in Medina. زَادَ رَكْعَتَيْن. It doesn't say Allah added 2 rak'ah. The riwayah of Bayhaqi says the Holy Prophet added 2 more rak'ah into these 2 rak'ah. Do you get me? The same legislative authority which we are discussing within Shiism is now somehow discussed within Sunnism, but now Sunnis will come and tell the Shi'as that, oh, you Shi'as are now becoming, you are trying to do ghulu and you are trying to say that Imams have legislative authority. Okay? Now, between again, I'm sorry I'm getting into discussions, wallahi, but these are important discussions for those who are doing research. Very strange, okay? Shi'as, Allahu Akbar, Shi'as always criticize the Sunnis when they have problems, and Sunnis criticize the Shi'as when their books also have problems. Okay? Now, for example, you will notice that the Shi'as, the Sunnis come and criticize the Shi'as for doing ghulu when it comes to ilm al-ghayb and Imams knowing ilm al-ghayb and the hidden knowledge and all whatnot. Go to the early books. This is what Wahhabis, that's why Salafis don't want you to read the early classical books. Okay? Inshallah, if we get time, we can read later, inshallah, these books. Even in Bukhari and Muslim, there are karamat written for the khulafa. Okay? The supernatural acts written for the khulafa in their books. But one of the things which are written, even the scholars mention, is that Umar, the second Khalifa, was a muhaddath. The angels used to inspire him and talk to him and tell him about the hidden things. Now, strangely, muhaddath is a terminology used in the Shia hadith also. Somebody with whom the angel speaks. Okay? Inshallah, if we get time, we can discuss it sometime, that there are categories within the companions of the Imams. Some believed in this opinion, some didn't believe in this opinion. But they believe, the Sunnis, some Sunni scholars believe that Umar used to be inspired by the angels. He was a muhaddath. Rather, they say that whatever he would think and the angel would inspire him and do it. And how many times have you heard on the minbar that Umar thought of this and it happened? Okay? This is the reality which they are talking about. Now, muhaddath is the same thing which the Shi'as are talking of ilm al-ghayb. What difference does it have? But you will notice now the Sunni is coming and talking about the Shias and say, you guys are becoming ghalis and you're doing ghulu. While not realizing they have the same things in their own books. Okay? So, coming back to the discussion also. وَطْمَأَنَّ. The Holy Prophet settled down. زَادَ رَكْعَتَيْن. Allah didn't add it. Rather, the Holy Prophet added 2 rak'ah in every prayer and in Maghrib. Okay? Maghrib was 1 غير المغرب لأن وتر الصلاة الغداء. The way they call it, it was the witr of the day. Okay, we have the witr of the night prayer, and then we have the witr of the day prayer. Then he says, وَكَانَ إِذَا سَافَرَ صَلَّى الصَّلَاةَ الْأُولَى. So the scholars will tell you, according to this hadith, that the reason there is qasr and there is 4 rak'ah, and qasr is in 4 rak'ah, it's not there in 3 or 2. Have you seen, yeah? Subuh doesn't have qasr, Maghrib doesn't have qasr. Only Dhuhr, Asr and Isha has qasr. Okay, why? Because the initial legislation was 2, and then the Holy Prophet added 2 more. So to be able to, when you are in a state of traveling, you actually pray the original prayer, and when you are in your home, in your residence, you will pray the prayer which the Holy Prophet legislated, and Allah then made it part of religion. Are you getting me where the discussion is going to? The point I was trying to prove is this, that the Holy Prophet added it, and this is in the Sunni books also. Now, look at what Fathul Bari, Ibn Hajar does. Wallahi, this is where sometimes you cry over how much the scholars play with the texts. Same riwayah of Bayhaqi, notice the way he narrates it, okay? An Aisha qalat. So the riwayah is the same from Aisha, okay? Notice, he says that فُرِضَتِ الصَّلَاةُ الْحَضَرُ وَالسَّفَرُ رَكْعَتَيْن رَكْعَتَيْن. He adds one more thing. He says that the residence salah and the safar salah was initially legislated as 2. Okay, this was not there in the earlier hadith. Now, here is where you see this now. فَلَمَّا قَدِمَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِ الْمَدِينَةِ وَاطْمَأَنَّ. Notice, same words. When the Holy Prophet reached Medina and he settled down, notice now the interpolation, the tahrif which happens now. Scholars, wallahi, they play with hadith. This is the unfortunate part we are going through. Okay? Ibn Hajar is an 8th century scholar. Notice he doesn't say Zada, Zada. Okay? The previous one was what? Zada rak'atain. The Holy Prophet added. Here he says Zuyyida fi salat al-hadar rak'atan. Okay? He plays with. Why? Because he wants to end up portraying his belief. He doesn't want to accept this belief of Wilayah Tashri'iyyah, that the Holy Prophet has the authority to legislate, and then now he comes and changes the word. Notice, still here he says the Holy Prophet settled down. The wording had to be that the Holy Prophet added that. But no, it was added in the prayers, 2 more rak'ah. I hope you're getting me where I'm trying to go to. Okay? So the whole legislative authority issue, Wilayah Takwiniyah issue, is there within the Shia books and the Sunni books. Okay? We gave this example. Now, within the Sunni books, I'm sorry, today my time is gone. I was supposed to again define Wilayah Takwiniyah, but inshallah in the next discussion, inshallah, I promise, inshallah, it will come, inshallah, yeah? But hopefully these discussions are important enough also to be able to help you in your research also, okay? Now, within the Sunni literature, so you now notice that it's 2 rak'ah, and then it was added into 4. In the Sunni literature, they have a conundrum, they have a conflicting narration now, and this is what Fathul Bari Ibn Hajar also discusses, and also Badruddin Aini also discusses it. One hadith says it was initially legislated as 2. The other hadith says it was legislated as 4. This is Ibn Abbas's hadith, which says that the initial legislation was not 2 rak'ah, it was legislated as 4. The way we are praying today, that's how it was legislated. Aisha's narration says that it was legislated as 2 initially, and then it was added. Now strangely, one hadith point, again without any there's no derogatory intention in this, okay? This is a hadith point to be keeping in mind. Both Aisha and Ibn Abbas were young people within these communities, okay? The elders and the Sahaba, the elder Sahabas, I don't know where does it go from? Okay, now Ibn Abbas, and that is why some people who have questioned Ibn Abbas were like, Ibn Abbas was a young boy when he met the Prophet. Okay, he was around what, 12, 13-year-old boy when he met the Prophet. So this young boy now is narrating such kind of narrations. Okay, that's a hadith point to keep in mind when it comes to studying hadith. So they have a contradictory narration. One, Ibn Abbas's narration says that 4 rak'ah was legislated. Aisha's narration says it was 2 rak'ah. Okay. Now, what do you do with this? Now, when it comes to contradictory narrations, when it's strange again, Sunnis blame Shias like nothing. They're like, your books are filled with ikhtilaf, and if you had imams, why ikhtilaf? Oh, you also have ikhtilaf also. Okay. Now, the only difference what happens within, and this is why I'm trying to say, let's not blame each other. Sunnis should not blame Shias. Shias should not blame Sunnis. Both have problems, and both need to sort their own problems. Okay. So now when contradictory narrations come, they try and reconcile. When they can't reconcile, Shias, especially the akhbari Shias, again, no evil intention, no ill intention intended from these words. Okay, the akhbaris call themselves akhbaris. Okay, al-muhaddithin, you want to call them. The akhbari scholars would quickly run to the taqiyya issue and reconcile the riwayats. Whenever there's a contradictory narration in the Shia books, quickly run to taqiyya and sort the contradiction. Sunnis also, unfortunately, whenever they have contradiction in the riwayats, when they can't reconcile, they quickly run to naskh, abrogation. And that's why the topic of naskh and abrogation has been discussed very extensively within the Sunni literature, more than the Shias. The amount of ayats they consider to be abrogated are plenty. Suyuti believes it's 500 plus, if I'm not mistaken. Then they also believe that riwayats can abrogate ayat also. Okay, and then you go further by saying, no, khabar wahid, a solitary report can abrogate a verse also. And then a verse, a hadith abrogates another hadith also. And thus you see this kichro. It's a mixture of these. It's a problem over a problem in their books when it comes to contradictory narrations. And then they blame the other side. Unfortunately. Okay? So this is what I'm saying, that both of us have problems. Why blame each other? One is jumping over naskh and abrogation to the limit, and the other one is running to taqiyya to the limit. Okay? Both are problematic. Okay? You can't have a religion which keeps on abrogating over. Day in, day out, the Holy Prophet and Allah was abrogating rules. Which kind of religion are we talking about? Okay? And you come to Shiism also. Which religion are we talking about that every day there's taqiyya being done? No. Okay? I hope I'm clarifying where I'm trying to go. I'm sorry I'm taking a bit of your time, but hopefully these discussions are beneficial to yourselves. So, we were discussing Wilayah Tashri'iyyah and legislative authority. We said Allah has given the authority and delegated legislative authority to the Prophet. And then we mentioned within the Sunnis also they have these kind of narrations also, even if they explicitly don't mention it out. One more discussion, which, as I said, I'm not getting into the details of it, but now the discussion comes in. Do the Imams even have the legislative authority or not? Okay? So you will see within scholars now difference of opinion. Some will say only the Prophet has legislative authority. Some say no, even Imams have legislative authority. And the reason is here. So, were Imams doing ijtihad or not? Do you get me? Okay. So when a new situation would come, what would Imam do? Okay. So if you believe in Wilayah Tashri'iyyah for the Imams, that the Imams then would legislate a new law. Okay. But if you don't believe in it, so for example, zakat at the time of the Prophet ﷺ was on 9 items. Okay, the 9 items are mentioned in the fiqh books. At the time of the Prophet, donkey was not mentioned as one of the zakatable items. You get me, okay? Zakatable items, donkey was not part of it. But Imam Ali alayhi salam charges zakat on a donkey. Now, what is he doing? Is he legislating a law? Some would say no, he has the power to legislate a law, and that's why he's doing that. Some would say, those who don't believe in Wilayah Tashri'iyyah and legislative authority of the Imams, they would come and say, no, the law was completed by the Prophet. The Imam is using the general principles given by the Prophet and applying it on a new instance, on a new application and a new misdaq. So the rules of zakat is done. Zakat as principle was formulated at the time of the Prophet. Imam is not adding something, rather Imam is just applying it on a new instance. Okay, this is a discussion which scholars have in fiqh, but what I wanted to mention was this, that some scholars believe it for the Imams also. Okay, now do Imams have legislative authority or not? This is a discussion which we need to do it sometime later, inshallah, in the future, if Allah gives tawfiq. In conclusion, again, my apologies, I didn't get to the definitions, but I felt that these were also important discussions to be able to have them so that you can understand. The important thing which we discussed was, one, the methodology. Okay, when it comes to metaphysical realities, how should you approach these metaphysical realities? We said when it comes to Wilayah Takwiniyah, we need textual evidences, not logical and rational evidences. Number one. And number two, we ended up discussing two types of wilayah. We said Wilayah Tashri'iyyah, which is not our topic. We just explained it today, so for you to be able to understand. The important point to keep in mind is the whole topic, or the whole issue of tafweed. Okay? The riwayah mentions tafweed. That means that Allah delegates the authority. So be it legislative authority, which we discussed today, be it creational authority, which we will discuss as Wilayah Takwiniyah as we go further, okay? But Allah is designating and delegating authority. That's the important point to keep in mind, okay? And then we ended up discussing that prophets, the Holy Prophet, does he have Wilayah Tashri'iyyah or not? We have not concluded anything, okay? We just mentioned to show that this is a concept within the Shia books and also within the Sunni books. What are the opinions out there? What are the differences there? We don't want to get into all those different discussions, okay? Let's pray to Allah to be able to give us the tawfiq, to be able to understand His religion better, and inshallah get closer to Him by implementing His religion better, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.